You're listening to That Teacher podcast, hosted by me, Alyssa McDonald. I'm that teacher who decided enough was enough and started an online business to fund my own 2-year maternity leave from my teaching job. This journey has been life-changing, bringing me opportunities to lead and grow in ways I never thought possible. Now, I'm on a mission to help other educators, moms, and impact-focused entrepreneurs find ways to build the online business of their dreams so they can have the time freedom and financial freedom they deserve. So grab a cup of coffee and let's bring your wildest dreams to life. Hello. I am back from my vacation and here to record another podcast episode for you. I'm so excited to be back. I am not going to edit this podcast episode. I'm so sorry if you listened to the last episode and realized that I started cutting out like every breath I took and every time that I swallowed, and I cut the episode way too much. I just cannot get back into my podcast flow. So I don't care what happens in this episode. I'm not editing it out because I over edited last time. And then I under edited the time before because my dog's tail was wagging. So listen, I'll get back. I promise I'll get back to my podcast groove. But I think the lesson here for me is that I'm always better when I don't try to be overly polished. And so I just need to be myself and stop trying to be so polished. But I did want to talk a little bit about my vacation because, of course, do you think I could go on vacation and not think about marketing? No, of course not. I was laying by the pool, driving down the road, literally thinking about marketing. Why not? I have a marketing lesson for you today, straight from the poolside. And if you check out the blog post link below this podcast, you can actually see the picture of the poolside shop I'm about to describe to you. But picture this. I am lounging poolside in Florida. I'm from New York, by the way. So I have like dead of the winter white skin that is not used to the sun. And I'm lounging by the pool, feeling my skin turning red. I am having a wonderful time, but I know I am going to get a nasty sunburn, and so are my kids, because do you think I remember to pack sunscreen? Of course not. It's winter. I don't even know where my sunscreen is. Well, conveniently, I turn to my right, and there's this lovely little poolside cabana with all different things you can buy, from towels to sunglasses to sunscreen to pool toys to pool floats. You name it, they have it, and they have it at top dollar. And so I took a stroll over to this poolside shop to grab some sunscreen and walked away $80 in the hole. And I didn't regret it one bit, to be honest. I was thrilled. I got my sunscreen. I grabbed a pair of sunglasses because I also forgot those. The kids wanted some of those shark sinkies they could throw in the pool because they saw every other kid had them. We got some of those, and I even grabbed a floaty so that I could float around the pool while the kids were swimming. I was perfectly happy, but I was also thinking, wow, I would not have paid those prices in the summer in New York at Walmart. I would have just grabbed this stuff for, I don't know, maybe $30 and been on my way. What is the difference? Meanwhile, we had been driving down whatever the main strip there is in Orlando, and there were these really junky, giant gift stores with big banners in the window that said Disney t-shirts, like 5 for $10. And you're thinking, how can they even make any money on selling 5 t-shirts for $10? And I started to think about the difference in pricing between those two ends of the spectrum. You've got the poolside shop who can charge top dollar for the same stuff I'm sure they're selling in those, what I perceive to be junky gift shops. There were about 20 of them within a 1-mile radius on that strip with thousands of cars driving by each day. Yet this poolside shop was probably making more with a much smaller audience. The right audience though, right? So many great marketing lessons to be thought about here. And so I wanted to bring this whole analogy back to pricing because I think it can really inform some of our thoughts around pricing. And this can be pricing is tricky, right? There's some mindset work to be done there. There are lots of different theories about pricing, and no one holds the answer to what you should price your digital products, your knowledge products, your services. No one holds the right answer. Oftentimes what people do is they'll ask me, they'll ask their friend, do you think this is the right price? Is this what you would charge? Is this what people would pay for this? Is this what I would pay for this? No one holds the right answer, and we can't presume what people will pay for a solution, what their financial circumstances are. But there are some factors we can take into consideration when deciding on our prices and when deciding about whether to raise those prices or even to lower them for a promotion or even permanently. I have done that with my programs, by the way. I have lowered prices, especially after COVID. So I'll talk more about how those circumstances all play into pricing decisions. But at the end of the day, pricing is an experiment. The only way to find out the answer is to test a new price and see how it goes. The most important part is that you see how it goes. A lot of people will change a price and then never look back at whether that changed their conversions or not. Did people stop buying? Did they continue to buy at the same rate? Did they continue to buy but just a little bit less frequently? We need to know how that change impacts our sales. Otherwise, it wasn't truly an experiment, right? If you were running a science experiment, you would change a variable, then you would observe and watch what happens. And that's what we're going to do with our pricing. But there are some factors you can think about when thinking about whether you're ready for a price raise. And I know some of you TPT sellers out there are ready for a price raise. So let's go through this quiz and find out if you are ready. I first want to remind you that price is simply a number. It is relative to value. I always use this analogy. The poolside analogy is one analogy, but I always use the analogy of if I had a coffee mug in front of me, and I said to you, this coffee mug is $200. You would say, whoa, no way, not paying $200 for that. Well, $200 is just a number. The coffee mug and how valuable it is to you determines whether you will pay that price. If it's just a regular old, plain old coffee mug, you're likely not going to pay the $200. If it is a handmade mug, it is pottery, and it was made by Dave Matthews himself, you'd pay $200 no problem, right? Price is relative to the value of what it is that you're offering. So when we're determining whether we want to raise our price, lower our price, or make any other adjustment when it comes to our product's value, we have to think about the value. How valuable is this solution to your customer? And there are many different variables that go into that. Going back to the poolside shop, I mentioned middle of winter, New York skin. I was about to be sunburned. I needed that solution so badly, and I needed it right at that moment. And I wasn't about to get up out of my pool chair, get in the car, drive to the busy Walmart, fight the crowds, find the sunscreen, waste an hour of my day to save money on that sunscreen. I was willing to pay the premium, even though I was on a budget, by the way, which I also wrote about on my blog because I did travel hack our trip to Disney, and I was very proud of what I did. So definitely head over to the blog if you want to learn more about travel hacking. That was a side note. So how do we know if our products have that same kind of value? Let's take the quiz. First of all, is your product selling right now? Either yes, this is something people are already buying and they're loving it, they're leaving testimonials, people are just buying this left and right, or no, you know what, I've been having trouble selling it, or I'm not really hearing from people about whether they liked it or not. I'm kind of unsure about how valuable this actually is for people. If you answered yes, people are buying it, they love it, this is amazing, testimonials are coming through all the time, then you might be ready to raise your price. And I'll give you an example. I did this with coaching calls. When I very first started out as a business coach, I offered pretty inexpensive coaching calls. I can't exactly remember what it was. I want to say it was like, I don't know, $60 an hour or something like that. And they started booking up so much that I could not keep up with the demand. I just didn't have enough time in the day. I don't mean to sound like I was a rock star or anything, but I didn't have enough hours in the day. So I started to creep the prices up, thinking, I've only gotten a certain amount of hours a day. There's a lot of demand for this. People are really loving these coaching calls. If I raise the price, now I'm just going to be selling fewer of them, but that's actually what I want, right? Because I have less time. And of course, over the years, as my, knowledge has increased and all sorts of different factors, the price has gone up. because the product is selling and it's valuable and it's in demand. Second question we want to sit with: how much competition do you have? And I know I did a whole episode on competition and whether it's worthwhile to look at your competition. It certainly is worthwhile to know what other people are using as pricing when you are pricing your own products. That does not mean you need to undercut their pricing. It doesn't even mean you need to match their pricing. You just need a ballpark idea of what people are willing to spend for this kind of solution. In other words, let's go back to the poolside stand for a minute. We know, if you've watched Supermarket Sweep, you know about what sunscreen should cost, right? If they gouged that price way up and above and beyond any sunscreen I've ever seen as a customer, I might have just asked somebody next to me to borrow their sunscreen. It might have pushed me over the edge to not purchase. So we don't want to go so far off into left field that people are like, whoa, that's way more than I was ever planning to spend on a solution like this one. We also don't want to go way underneath, because then you've positioned yourself as the cheaper solution. And in my opinion, that's just not a great way to go about things. It reminds me of the store with the 5 t-shirts for $10. It's like you've gone so undercut with your prices that you've cheapened yourself. And then you begin to have this reputation of like being junk, which there were only 1 to 2 cars in the parking lots of those stores, presumably because people think that the stuff that's inside the store is kind of junky. If you have other competition, well, I'm sure you have competition, make sure you understand what their pricing is. But also understand how much competition do you have. Maybe you have a really unique product and you're one of only a couple of people offering a solution like this one. In the beginning, when I launched Teacher Hustle University, I truly believe I was one of only a few people specifically talking about marketing in the teacher business space. Now I'm one of many, 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 many others. So that's a determining factor in your price. What is how many choices does your customer have? If there are tons of other solutions like yours and your customers have a lot of other choices, again, that doesn't mean you have to position yourself as the lowest priced one. You might add value to your product instead, but you're probably going to want to steady the course when it comes to your pricing. You're not going to want to go way far and above what everybody else is doing. The next question to sit with: how important is your solution to your customer? Remember that the most valuable problems involve saving time, saving money, and making money. That's because that's the easiest measure of return on investment. People can easily see, if I buy this thing, I'm going to get back an hour of my time. An hour of my time is worth that price. Or I can buy this thing, I'm going to save X amount of dollars or make X amount of dollars. It's worth my money. That's why business solutions, like I mentioned, Teacher Hustle University or a coaching call, these are easier sells because people see the value. They see, okay, I'm going to sit down for a coaching call for an hour and I'm going to walk away with the clarity I need to go make money. That is an immediate return and an easy return on my investment, easy to see. That doesn't mean you can't charge more if you're not saving people time, saving them money, or making money. It just means you're going to have to do some more convincing before they make the purchase. That's okay. Be careful with the saving time one. I have a feeling, we all think that our products save people time, and I'm sure they do. But there's a key difference here. We can price our products higher if our solution saves people time on something they must do. If you're saving people time on something they may do, that's not necessarily a green light to raise your price. Let me talk to you about the difference. Let's say you're a TPT seller and you have a progress monitoring tool in Google Sheets that will help teachers keep track of their data. They can take it, they can use it and track their data, and they can bring it to their instructional support team meetings. They're good to go. That is something they must do. It's part of their job. They have to do it, and we're going to save them time on it. Great. Green light to raise the price on that one, because it's going to save them valuable time. They're going to easily be able to see that value. Good to go. Or let's say you have bulletin board posters. Sure, printing out these posters is going to save a teacher time, but it's saving them time on something they may do. They may decorate their bulletin board. They don't have to. The next one is, how quickly do you solve the problem? If it is a download, print, go, problem is solved, or if you have an online course, it's like 4 weeks to the solution, great. Go ahead and think about raising that price. If it is something that takes a little bit longer for the solution, and that's okay. That doesn't mean like you have to always have a fast solution, but let's say it needs to be edited, or it takes some additional prepping or planning, or it is a course that takes a long time to get through and is more of an independent study course than a group coaching style course, then you're going to want to not necessarily lower the price, but just keep that in mind as you're pricing out your product. And if you're having trouble selling your product, it could be because your solution is not quick enough to garner the price that you've asked for. Let's say you have an online course and it's $100, but it's self-study and it's a couple of hours long. It comes with a lot of videos, but it really, like, the people are going to need to sit down and watch those videos and really do the work to see the result. And you have not been able to get people to purchase at $100. You can do one of two things. You can lower that price, or you can realize that maybe the reason this isn't so valuable to people is because they need more help getting to the solution faster. You can add in some sort of tool or support, like a coaching call, like a live coaching call, or some other kind of tool that will make it worth that $100 because they can get to the solution faster. Okay, so this isn't really, these questions don't just have to determine whether you raise or lower price. It can also be something that you sit with and think, is this why people are not buying? Because they're not getting the value that I thought they would get from this and that they truly want. All right, next question. How in demand is your solution in today's market? This is where a lot of us got a little bit mixed up in 2020 because all of a sudden teachers needed digital products, right? So we were making them, people were buying them, people were paying a premium for them just because they needed that solution. They needed it fast. It was a total sunscreen by the pool type of problem. But then after we returned to school and people weren't using digital products, not that they weren't using them, right? They didn't need them as urgently as I needed my sunscreen by the pool anymore. Then we started to see a decline in sales, and maybe we couldn't command the prices that we were asking for in the midst of the chaos of going into virtual schooling. So we have to consider what's going on in the market, what's trending, what are the solutions people are looking for today, right now. Maybe your solution is that sort of hair on fire problem where they need the solution today. If so, you can command a higher price right now. Doesn't mean you can command a higher price forever, but you can right now, right? Or maybe your customers are looking for the solution and they need it, but they don't need it for like the next 3 months or maybe more. For example, it's April and you have a back to school item. That item is not going to be as popular in April as it is in September, and people really need it. You might consider lowering the price in April or doing some sort of promotion because it's not exactly timely for them at that moment. Doesn't mean you need to lower the price forever, but you might run a promotion in the off season. Or maybe your customers are not looking for the solution, but if they knew more about that solution, they would love it. This is the hardest one because you have to convince people that they need the thing. For example, I always use this example, but in my Teachers Pay Teachers store, I added in this game that I made up the game. It was called One Guess. It's a great game. My students loved it. I passed it around to all my colleagues at school. They all loved it, but nobody is on TPT searching for the One Guess game because I made that up. I made that name up completely. However, if people were looking to teach their kids about the states and capitals and they found this game and they tried it, they would realize this is a really cool, awesome solution. It's not a hair on fire problem. It's not even something that's like trending or anything like that. People are really not looking for the solution. That takes more convincing. Doesn't mean that I can't necessarily I can't raise the price if it becomes more popular somewhere down the road, or if I'm selling it later after I've done a lot of education about it, or in an environment where I've done a lot of education around it. For example, if I was like launching it to my email list where I've been talking about the One Guest game, then maybe I don't need to have it on sale, but maybe I do need to consider running a promotion on Teachers Pay Teachers where people are not going to be searching for this kind of a solution. Determining whether to raise your price, lower a price, add a promotion, add a bonus, add some sort of supportive tool. This is all, remember, experimental. So sit with these questions, think about running one pricing experiment, either raising a price, lowering a price, running a promotion, or adding some supportive tool to your product. Consider running that experiment this month. And then most importantly, remember to watch that experiment to see the results, to decide whether you'll continue doing that, continue down that path, or you can always go right back to where you were today. You really don't have anything to lose. It's worthwhile to try this experiment. There are 2 other disclaimers I want to make before I wrap up this podcast episode. If you are still sitting in a little bit of mindset gunk around raising your prices because you're like, oh, I don't know, we're the economy and teachers don't have a lot of money and I don't want to charge that much for my product, I do want to remind you of a couple things. First, if you are spending time and money driving traffic to your Teachers Pay Teachers store or to any of your products or services, you can command a higher price than someone who is not doing that. And you should, because you are pouring money and time into your business and you should be seeing a return on that investment. I'll give you another weird analogy. Let's say that I decided to sell pizza outside of my house. I should have said lemonade. I decided to sell pizza at the bottom of my driveway. I don't have a lot of overhead cost. I am probably not going to put a whole ton of time into getting people there. I'm just going to get whoever's passing by my house and wants some. I should have said lemonade. Okay. Versus I decide to open a permanent lemonade truck, let's say food truck, lemonade and pizza food truck at a local place where there's some other food trucks, a park, let's say. Now I've got overhead. I'm paying for the truck. I'm paying for the advertising on the truck. I'm paying maybe to be part of this consortium of food trucks. I've got money invested. My lemonade and my pizza needs to be higher than the person at the end of their driveway. Okay. Hopefully that analogy helped a little bit with your mindset shift. If you are pouring time and money, if you're listening to this podcast, you are pouring time in, need to think about raising your prices. No more $1 products. Okay. Promise. And if you have a warm audience, if you have an engaged email list, an engaged social following, you have a very niche list, you've built trust with those people, you are the poolside marketplace. You have the right people at attention to be able to raise your prices, even just by $1. You do. You are not the junky gift store on the side of the interstate with the giant banners and for dollar t-shirts, because you have a warm niche audience in front of you and you've worked hard to gain their trust and they trust you enough to spend the money you need to make on your products. So remember that as you're getting stuck in some of that mindset stuff. If you loved this episode and you loved thinking about pricing and you're like, you know what, I want to go back and rethink all of my pricing and my pricing structure and how this is all reflecting in my sales, you can really increase your sales this year just by playing around with pricing and optimizing some of the value in your products. I strongly encourage you to either join us inside Teacher Hustle University. You can get on the waiting list in the link in the show notes, or grab the 3-day business planning challenge where I walk you through how to set up your prices, how to set up a foundational offer, a higher price offer, and some lower ticket offers to really round out your sales so that you're getting the kind of sales you need and that those sales are increasing over time and you have a plan in place to do so. All right. Hope you loved this totally unedited episode and all the analogies inside. I will link to the full blog post plus the blog post about my travel hacking to Disney World in the show notes, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to That Teacher Podcast. I have a lot of resources for you in the show notes. Make sure you subscribe to my Monday mixtapes and tune in here to the podcast to learn more business and marketing strategy to help grow your business to the business of your dreams so that you can have the financial wiggle room you've been hoping for. Looking forward to supporting you in your journey.